Hi, it's Carl Brower, and I'm here in lovely Aspen, Colorado, getting ready to drive the all-new 2025 Audi Q5 and SQ5. We're going to drive these vehicles several hundred miles today, actually. It's a big route, and we're going to experience all the new elements that make these vehicles, well, all new from the ground up. They've got a new platform, new engine technology, new suspension technology, new drivetrain technology, and of course, a lot of new interior technology with some beautiful digital screens that we're going to be able to play with. Looking forward to the drive. Let's jump in. Among the first things you're going to notice about this all-new Audi Q5 and SQ5 is the styling. On the SQ5 specifically, it's got this large grille that flows into this lower grille. It's not quite as aggressive on the Q5, but it's a very aggressive front-end design on the SQ5, and it goes with these scoops, as they're called in the hood. The Audi folks actually told us they're called spoon scoops, like the marks you see left in ice cream if you scoop them. And they do give, I think, an effective sculpted look to both the SQ5 and the Q5. Another important upgrade for the all-new Q5 and SQ5 are these LED taillight and headlight technologies. They're now standard LED front and rear taillights on both models, but you can actually get optional OLED technology on both of them. And you also get optional daytime running light signatures that you can customize and have a pattern that you particularly like. You can see this full width taillight that's back here. On the upper trims, you're going to switch it from LED to OLED, and then the headlight, standard LED on all of them, really makes them crisper and brighter, and it gives you options to change what they look like. Just leaving Aspen in the all-new 2025 Audi Q5 and starting to experience this new 2-liter turbocharged technology they've got. It does use variable vane or variable geometry technology to give it a wider power band, and the result is 268 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. Now that's good for a 0 to 60 time of around 5.8 seconds. And of course, that power is being delivered through a 7-speed S-tronic dual-clutch transmission and standard quattro all-wheel drive. One thing I'm already noticing is that while the standard wheel size for the new Q5 is 18 inches, when you have an upper trim level like this Prestige that we're in now, you get 20-inch wheels, and they're all on run-flat tires, no matter what wheel size you get. So there's no spare tire, it's all using run flats, and I can kind of tell, we've hit a few bumps so far, and there's a little bit of choppiness over those bumps because we've got the taller wheels, and we are still even in balanced drive mode, but I am changing it right now to dynamic just to see what that does to the ride quality. We haven't really hit any twisties yet, but I want to see what we get in terms of ride quality with these 20-inch wheels, even on a straight road like this. In terms of driving modes, there are several you can choose from. You've got balanced, you've got comfort, you've got dynamic, and you've even got off-road. And this vehicle, when it's equipped with the adaptive air suspension, which the upper trim level ones are, it can actually lower and raise somewhere around 2 to 2.5 inches based on going off-road or actually lowering if you're going to load things into it. Not every Audi Q5 comes with that adaptive suspension, but the list of standard features is pretty impressive. They've all got the 11.9-inch virtual cockpit digital display, and it sits now next to a standard 14.5-inch central touchscreen. These both feature OLED technology, which Audi says means they can display true black and give them much better contrast than standard screens that are often very gray and just a dark gray when you're trying to get black. It's also got standard wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and wireless smartphone charging. And Audi says they've also added cooling. There's actually a cooling component to the wireless charging pad because they know the phones are getting hot when they're being charged and they want to offset that. That's pretty unique. I haven't heard of that from any other company before. You've also got USB ports up front as well as USB ports for the rear seat passengers. And the rear seat itself, it folds in a 40-20-40 configuration, and it moves fore and aft 4 inches. So you can prioritize passengers or cargo. It actually has a couple different reclining angles as well to further customize it for passenger comfort or maximum cargo space. Maximum cargo space is either 27.6 cubic feet with the second row seats up or 56.9 cubic feet when they're folded down. And those figures are a couple more cubic feet than the previous generation Q. A couple other standard features on every Q5 that really show off the technological element that Audi's going for with this vehicle include a standard digital key, so you can use your phone instead of a traditional key to get in, start, and drive the vehicle. Also, an optional 10.9-inch passenger dedicated display in the dash that allows them to watch separate media from the driver. Actually has active shutters that will keep the driver from being able to see that screen. I'm looking at it and I can't really see it right now because no distracting the driver with media that the passenger happens to be enjoying. Some other cool options include front sport seats with ventilation and heated rear seats. And it's worth mentioning, by the way, that a standard item in all Q5s is a second row climate control system. So all these vehicles have 3-zone climate control, and if you're in the second row, you can pick your own temperature. I think maybe one of the most impressive high-tech features that this vehicle's got, I'm looking at it right now, is the head-up display. It's not just multicolor, it looks almost like another screen up here in the lower part of the windshield. I'm seeing this car, I'm seeing the dotted lines on the right lane that I'm driving by, I'm seeing other cars when I approach them, I'm seeing the speed limit sign, I'm seeing my current miles per hour, and I'm seeing my next navigation instruction. And that's just on the current view. There's 3 or 4 other ways I can configure that head-up display. It's the most impressive head-up display I think I've ever seen in a vehicle. Very good example of how Audi wants to advance through innovation through technology, which is one of their mantras. And this newest Q5 is just showing off a lot of cool technology. The passenger side screen, the OLED technology in the taillights and in the interior displays, and this head-up display that's the best one I've seen in the industry. A couple other cool options to mention include this large panoramic sunroof and a 685-watt Bang & Olufsen sound system. Audi's technology theme continues into the driver assist sphere with all sorts of features that are either standard or optional. You can get things like adaptive cruise control, blind spot warning, and maybe another reflection of Audi's incorporation of the latest tech, the ability to recognize traffic signs like speed limit and incorporate them into the navigation system and even into the virtual cockpit. I'm driving and I'm watching speed limit signs go past on the road, and they're represented in this kind of virtual representation of the road that I'm looking at right now in the virtual cockpit. So it knows what speed limit you're driving in, not just because of a GPS, but also because it's seeing the same signs you are. The digital presentation in the new Audi Q5 may be its most impressive feature. Everything from the virtual cockpit directly in front of the driver, the 11.9-inch screen there, the 14.5-inch central touchscreen with a wide range of features and capabilities and control systems, and then of course the passenger dedicated 10.9-inch screen available on higher trim levels. That's a lot of digital presentation, but it also speaks to the innovation through technology philosophy that Audi is trying to incorporate into all of their vehicles and has been for years. Second row seating accommodations are important in vehicles like the Audi Q5, and this newest 2025 version, well, the accommodations are as good as ever. I've got plenty of legroom, even when the front seat is adjusted for my 6-foot frame. In this Prestige trim, I've got heated seat controls down here, and I can do things like adjust the seat back angle and even slide this seat fore and aft to prioritize cargo or passenger capacity. As an SUV, the Q5 has to promise utility as part of its total package. And in this newest 2025 version, you get 27.6 cubic feet behind the second row. Now you can put the second row down and there's a release handle in the cargo area, and that'll give you 56.9 cubic feet of cargo capacity behind the front row. At the end of the day, the Audi Q5 is an SUV, and SUVs are supposed to be able to go off-road. So Audi provided an off-road component of the driving loop. And here we are outside Crested Butte and driving this Audi Q5 with 20-inch wheels in off-road setting in this off-road stretch. And well, let's give it a try, see how it does. We appreciate the off-road opportunity to drive something like a Q5 in an environment that, well, it's never going to be driven in, let's be honest. But it's really clear that it's not actually off-road oriented vehicle. We've got the Prestige trim, we've got the 20-inch wheels, and even in the off-road setting, it's feeling a little jouncy and bangy on what is essentially a fire road. There's nothing going on here that's true off-roading, except that it's not a paved road. I would suggest that people who buy a Q5 stay on pavement, especially if they've got the 20-inch wheels. And if you've really got off-roading aspirations, you go for something else. Should be noted that while both suspension tuning and wheel size don't seem very attuned for off-roading in this vehicle, it does have standard quattro all-wheel drive. And depending on which speed I'm taking these corners at, I can still feel it doing its thing. It's holding a line extremely well, and there's really no slippage going on at all. Very impressive. As is typical for life in the Rocky Mountains, we've now started to experience some solid rain while we are on this off-road portion of our drive, which means the formerly somewhat packed muddy road is getting muddier and slipperier. But we've also got quattro all-wheel drive, and again, I'm not really feeling like I've lost any confidence in its ability to get this vehicle through corners on a muddy dirt road without letting it slip around too much. Still quite confident on a road like this. We're back on paved road and dynamic driver mode setting out of the off-road setting that we were in just a few minutes ago. And I have to say that I got a little more tolerant of how the Q5 was behaving off-road. Still not where you want to be with 20-inch wheels in a on-road oriented, handling oriented SUV like this one, but you can do it. If you, even in the Prestige 20-inch wheel version, if you want to go off-roading or at least go down a fire road, it will handle it, and you will get the benefit of all-wheel drive with the quattro to keep you confident, even if it's rainy and muddy. It's a much better vehicle on road like we are now, and Audi's clearly continued to tune this chassis, this brand new platform, in a way that makes it pretty engaging. The steering feel, the weighting, the adaptive suspension, it all makes it a very fun and entertaining vehicle, even at just the Q5 level. We have yet to get in the SQ5. We're going to do that in a few minutes, but the Q5 remains a beautiful, technologically enhanced, and capable on-road SUV. If you want to carry 5 or fewer people and enjoy the style, enjoy the technology, and enjoy the driving dynamics, this one serves you better than ever. Well, we made it to Crested Butte in our 2025 Audi Q5, but it's a little dirtier than when we left Aspen. Off-roading, on-roading, a lot of mountain driving and beautiful scenery. And it's easy to see that Audi has accomplished what they want for their best-selling Q5. It's got more technology, it's got better performance, it's got a bigger interior, and it's got an even more attractive exterior. These vehicles start about $53,000 for the premium trim, and they go up to about $63,000 for the prestige trim. And we're about to get into the SQ5, which is going to have even more performance, but I think as a mainstream, high-volume vehicle, one that pays a lot of Audi's bills, the Q5 will continue to find success in the marketplace. We have now switched from the Q5 to the SQ5. That means going from a 4-cylinder to a 6-cylinder engine, more power, larger wheels, and a cooler exhaust note that I can already hear just standing here while it's idling. We're going to jump in and see if it's also more fun to drive. When you're driving the SQ5, it's immediately apparent you've got a couple extra cylinders and a good chunk more horsepower. In this case, 362 horsepower and 406 pound-feet of torque. That's good for 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds. You've also got this flat bottom steering wheel that feels, well, a little more meaty and extra confidence boosting when you're going through corners like this. We've got it in dynamic mode right now, and we're on the right kind of road to experience that. I do find it interesting that despite the fact that this one can have up to 21-inch wheels, and it does in the version we're driving right now, it still has an off-road setting. We saw how much the 20-inch wheels were maybe bouncing around and not enjoying the washboard in the Q5. I really wouldn't recommend taking an SQ5 off-road, especially if it's got the 21-inch wheels like this one does. But it does have a setting for that if you want to give it a try. Of course, it's an Audi, and that means it's got standard quattro all-wheel drive. And when you're at the peak of Cottonwood Pass and you've got snow all around you, that does add a little bit of confidence. But honestly, just having the increased horsepower and the ability to paddle shift this with the 7-speed S-tronic transmission on a twisty road like this, it's a magic combination. And you do get that enhanced exhaust note as the engine screams up to its 6,000 RPM redline. There are several enhancements for the SQ5 over the Q5. We've talked about things like the exterior styling enhancements, the flat top and bottom steering wheel, but you also get these diamond stitched leather sport seats as standard, and they are available not only with ventilation like the Q5, but also massaging, which the Q5 doesn't have. There's also a lot more S badging throughout this interior, and that includes lighted seal plates when you open the doors. There's also a black optics package for the SQ5. It adds a series of black exterior accents and 21-inch 5-spoke wheels. What I've noticed in both the Q5 and the SQ5, and honestly in the A5 and S5 sedan I've driven recently, is that the variable steering that Audi has engineered, the newest version of it, is really quite effective. Variable steering can be counterintuitive and kind of kludgy and difficult to predict how much rotation you're going to get given how much input you turn the wheel. But this one is very intuitive. It never feels like it's changing or delivering an unexpected level of turn. And that makes it much easier to drive, whether you're going fast or slow on a twisty road like this. Another fun aspect of the SQ5 is the exhaust note and its ability to actually do some popping as you're slowing down. I don't think I can get it to do it loud enough on, I don't think I can get it to do it loud enough to be captured by video, but there's definitely a cool popping effect. Not going to hear it on the video, but it sounds neat when you're driving the vehicle. Can't really overstate how neat the virtual cockpit is in these newer Audis. This SQ5's ability to recreate the real road in a virtual image right in front of the driver, including other vehicles, in this case another SQ5, is pretty impressive. This is the kind of tech that really speaks to what Audi's trying to do with their innovation through technology. Well, we've now experienced both the Q5 and the SQ5 in everything from Rocky Mountain sunshine, which we're still trying to get here, and snowing blizzards, which we just went through over a pass about 10 minutes ago. And I think that really reflects the car that we're driving. Whether it's the Q5 or the SQ5, you've got a wide range of characteristics and capabilities, all-wheel drive, performance, technology. This is a really well-executed redesign for a very successful Audi model that pays a lot of bills. And the new one is available for between $66,000 and $75,000. And I think it's going to sell just as well as the previous ones did. Another home run for Audi.